much for your kind introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here on this Thursday afternoon in November. When I walked around here, I saw that you are getting into the Christmas mood slowly. That's something we do very late in December in the Netherlands, because we have St. Nicholas first on the 5th of December, and only then we get into Christmas mood. And what we don't do very well is Christmas markets. You're very much better at that than we are. We are Dutch, so we sell 2 pairs of underpants for €5. That's the sort of thing that is the atmosphere at our Christmas markets. So the setting is a pleasure. And also in this room with you, and I hope we can have a good exchange of views later on. Indeed, I'm in the Hochschule von Amsterdam, studying University of Applied Sciences. That little figure in the logo I recently found out is the River Amstel. I never knew what it was, but that's what it's supposed to be. In the EIE, I'm in the board of a steering group of the expert community internationalization at home. And one of the 3 steering group members is from Austria, from Vienna. And in my perception, our cooperation between Dutch and Austrian institutions of higher education is intensifying, because what I miss by being here is a visit of an Austrian delegation to my university. I think we have many things in common, Dutch and Austrians. We share a big neighbor, and that also determines our position, also with regards to education. I will talk about internationalization of the curriculum, internationalization at home, and play with the terms a little bit, because there is considerable confusion about that. But I will not try to leave it at that, but I will also try to take you through some new developments, some very recent, some publications this year that have a bearing on the internationalization of the curriculum. But let's start with the terminology. I'm sure you're all familiar with these terms. To start with one at the bottom, comprehensive internationalization is usually used in American universities, but increasingly you find it in Europe as well. And well, as the word said, it includes everything, both the curriculum, the campus. There is the older term internationalization of the campus, which American universities use, and there is not even a definition for it, so nobody knows what it really is. It's also about mobility, and the problem with these big concepts that are about everything is that they get a little bit fuzzy. I think what you mostly find, and they are often interchanged, is internationalization at home and internationalization of the curriculum. It depends a little bit on where you are. If you go to Australia, then internationalization of the curriculum includes mobility, because they use the curriculum to make students mobile. And if individual students are mobile and they come back, they are integrated back into the curriculum through curricular integration. In the US it's called the Minnesota model, so that you bring the learning that's being done outside the university, outside the country, back into the curriculum. For those students who are actually mobile, that is a minority. So a big difference between internationalization at home, in fact the main difference is that in internationalization at home you don't count on students to go abroad for 6 months. You expect that they stay at home and you reach your learning outcomes through the curriculum. And when students would go abroad, that would be an extra, that would be, as we call it, a plus option for a limited percentage of students who actually do that. So in the Australian context, and that's understandable from their geography, and or in the South African context, it's not so easy to become mobile. So what I perceive in Dutch universities, for example, is that students are mobile all the time. They take a cheap flight to Barcelona, They go across borders, but they do not go abroad for formal mobility 5 or 6 months for 1 semester. So you cannot say that they're not mobile, but they're not mobile within the formal curriculum that generates credits. I'll give you a few characteristics of internationalization at home. It is a tool and not an aim. That seems very obvious, but in fact it's not. What you see in many universities is that they introduce internationalization at home and say, you see, we've done it. But what actually counts is the effects it produces on students. And so internationalization at home is a tool, and the real aim is equipping students with whatever they need to function in the world. Internationalization at home is not dependent on incoming student mobility or teaching in English. That is a big help, of course, if you bring the students in, international students in, because you can create an international learning environment. And not only in different disciplines, it's also the location of the university, the ambitions of a program. And so if I look at programs in the Netherlands, a program in Amsterdam, a very diverse city, is different from a program in the east of the Netherlands. It's only 200 kilometers, but the setting is quite different. Internationalization at home is about teaching and learning, and it is therefore in the realm of the academic staff who own it. And they are the teaching and learning people, they are the subject specialists. So it should be shared by academic staff, not by the international office. And so it is a teaching and learning issue, and many of the problems in the implementation are that the wrong people are actually working on internationalization of the curriculum, the wrong people feel responsible for it, and the academics are not always supported in internationalizing the curriculum. For example, there is educational services, the people who deal with quality and educational concepts, and they often operating in isolation from the international office and the academics. And if you bring that together, then the academics can assume the ownership. Because what makes internationalization at home different is that you can also find your international and intercultural dimension in the local context. There are international companies around. The city has many cultures, and you can use that learning environment to create different perspectives in the curriculum. It doesn't always have to be broad. So you don't always have to bring in guest lecturers either, because sometimes local people with an international background can achieve the same effect. When we talk about implementing English-speaking programs, we've made many mistakes. So staff that was not prepared. We got international classrooms where every nationality sits in a different corner. The international dimension was not articulated. So sometimes we've grown very fast in that direction, and that has not always been quality consideration. Whereas in reality, we are not doing it like the UK to make money. And so we internationalize, we change programs to English because we want to attract more talented students. And so it's a quality consideration, not a business one. But I'm afraid that will change quickly, and probably in Austria as well, when people say, well, there is a business aspect to it. If I talk about the curriculum, we actually talk about different forms of curriculum. The formal curriculum is clear, that's what generates the credits, that's the compulsory bit that those students have to go through. The informal curriculum is not assessed, but it is certainly important in student experience. This is what happens in the university. It can be meetings like these, it can also be social events organized by a student association, and it brings an international flavor, but it's not assessed, so you cannot expect students to take part in it. Below the waterline, we had a hidden curriculum. I don't know how familiar you are with that term, but that's everything we do because we grew up with it and it's logical to us. So, for example, in the Netherlands, we grade on a scale from 1 to 10, but we never give the 10 because that's for God. We never give the 9 because that's for the teacher, so the best students get an 8. That's our mentality. In the US, it's completely different. And so, if we send our students to the US, they have a B, but they're actually our best students and are expected to have an A. So that's hidden curriculum. If you don't explain that to international students, they get lost. But even if you don't have international students, you want to give perspectives on the reality, on the daily practice, on the paradigms that you have as a university. And it's searching for, different perspectives. That's why some people have also called an internationalized curriculum a multi-perspective curriculum. And that is maybe an alternative. Internationalization at home is a difficult concept to bring because you tell people you should internationalize your curriculum or you should apply internationalization at home. And then this is already difficult for them because they are used to internationalization as mobility. And then actually you tell them that a big part of the internationalization of the curriculum is intercultural and its perspectives. So we cannot really blame people for getting lost there somewhere. Finally, the omitted curriculum is what you don't teach. And so in colonial context, for example, South Africa, the history of South Africa starts with the arrival of the Dutch or the English. There was nothing before it. So that is also something you want to address if you internationalize your curriculum. Why would you internationalize your curriculum, or why would you apply internationalization at home? There is the idea of citizenship and global citizenship. Those are more the soft elements, if you wish. But there is also employability, and those could be the harder considerations. For example, our graduates will have to compete with people from other countries for jobs in the local labor market. So that is competition. I think there should be a balance between what you aim for in terms of citizenship or the person of the student and employability, in other words, the professional. And what those learning outcomes should be, well, you should actually look around and collect as many views on that as you can, from the professional field, from alumni, from demographic trends, because they are flexible. And those learning outcomes also determine what students know when they leave the university and enter the labor market for the next 30, 40 years. And so you should actually look at what those learning outcomes should mean in 10, 20 years' time. So they are dynamic, and you cannot internationalize a curriculum and then think you're finished. You will keep on doing it all the time. I would like to end with a few challenges, and I hope they have come forward from what I showed you before. Employability skills for non-mobile students, so not only the happy few that go abroad and get their employability skills there, but the non-mobile should happen. We should clarify concepts and what they mean. Our policy for internationalization of the curriculum should be top-down and enable bottom-up implementation within programs of study. Connecting stakeholders. So academics find it difficult to write learning outcomes, but there are in every university people who do that on a daily basis, but they're just not always connected. Designing professional development that is not leaving things to chance, and so we have structured professional development to support academic staff. Focus on online learning. The European Commission now has embraced internationalization at home, and they link it with quality and online learning. And they consider that connected. And online learning has enormous potential in the home curriculum. The learning outcomes and finally assessment, and I think this will keep us busy beyond today. I think it will take us about 15 years, so we will have enough to do in the future. This is what I wanted to share with you at this point, and we look forward to the respondents and later on to your views on this.